Good evening and welcome to the, what's the date today? November 7th edition of the Amelia Village Council. Ask first for a roll call from the fiscal officer.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Pollock.
Yes.
Ms. Gerber.
Here.
Mr. Hart.
Here.
Mr. Rosser.
Here.
And Mr. Thacker.
Here.
All present.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. and ask everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Once again, good evening and welcome to the November 7th edition of the Amelia Village Council meeting. Let the record show the council has received the bulk of the materials reviewed in tonight's meeting, prior to tonight's meeting, and has had an opportunity to review the material and closed. I'd like to thank those of you who are here present in council chambers this evening and encourage your participation in the public input section, and also like to thank those who might be viewing the meeting at home on either Claremont County Communication Channel number 22 or by way of the village website. Thank you for stopping by and paying attention to what's going on with local government, and encourage you to contact us with your input as you see fit. First item on the agenda this evening is the approval of previous meeting minutes. There are two sets of minutes for tonight. The first is from the October 17, 2011 meeting. This time I'm entertaining a motion from the council.
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell.
Abstain.
Mr. Pollock.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Mr. Hart.
Yay.
Mr. Ellington. I'm sorry. Mr. Rosser.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes 5-1, the one being an abstention.
Thank you. So the minutes from the October 17th regular session are approved. Second set of minutes for approval tonight is for a special meeting on October 27, 2011. This time I'm going to entertain a motion from council.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
I have a question. Is there any reason why the comments of Mr. Thacker were not added to that were made to our solicitor, were not added to the minutes?
They can be added, but I took it upon myself to just report the activity of the meeting rather than any personal comments or innuendo.
Well, the only reason I asked is because we have in the fact that we voted to, or I made the motion that he resigned. I would just like it put into the minutes why we did that, so that it's not misconstrued that there was no action as to why we did that.
You put his in, put mine in.
Yeah, and I want every name I was called in there too. If we're gonna be adding comments. So we need to go over the tape now, I guess, and get it out.
What tape?
Oh, that's right.
That's the other
That's
piece.
true, yeah. It's hard to get everyone's comments in there then.
Some of the comments I'd rather not put in because they involve profanity.
Yeah. They weren't mine.
No, I'm well aware of whose they were.
I don't see a way to include them all. Maybe we have the word heated in front of discussion or something like that. That would be a much better solution.
Do we have a motion?
You want to do that one there?
Make a motion to amend.
Yeah. Make a motion that we amend it to heated.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell,
Yay.
Mr. Pollak,
Yay.
Ms. Gerber. Pardon?
Yay.
Mr. Hart,
Yay.
Mr. Rosser,
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
6-0 passes.
All right.
We still have to approve the minutes now.
Oh,
That's
so
just to
that
amend.
was a motion within, yes. I
I'll make a
apologize.
motion to go ahead and approve the minutes.
This is for the special session on October 27th. Thank you, Kevin. A motion on the floor, do we have a second?
Oh, I'll second.
Discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell,
Yay.
Mr. Pollak,
Yay.
Ms. Gerber,
No.
Mr. Hart,
Yay.
Mr. Rosser,
No.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
4-2 passes.
Minutes for the special session on October 27, 2011 are approved. Next item on the agenda this evening is the mayor's report for Monday, November 7, 2011. Under the headings of meetings, I've been involved in correspondence with many people on behalf of Amelia Village since the last meeting, including but not limited to the following. Interim Police Chief Wallace, representatives from the Union Township Fire Department, Fiscal Officer Kevin Pyle, Village Solicitor Laura Abrams, Pat Madel from CDS Engineering, village staff, police personnel, and village residents. Next item on the agenda this evening, or on my report, is a report from the current village solicitor Laura Abrams. We'll be beginning with miscellaneous reports and updates from the outgoing solicitor Laura Abrams.
The only report I have is I wanted to report back to council. If council recalls, on September 19th, FOP representative Daryl Zorns had appeared at the village council meeting, and during the public input section of that meeting made 2 allegations against the mayor. The first allegation was that one of the Amelia police officers had witnessed the mayor accepting a quantity of donuts from a local donut shop without paying for those donuts, which would be in violation of the village's ethical conduct policy. The second allegation was that the mayor had used inappropriate language in discussing personnel matters with a member of the police department. As the first allegation involved allegations of unethical conduct, which are very serious, and involved witnesses who were not employed by the village, I began my review of that matter first. In investigating that allegation, I interviewed the owner of the donut shop, the employee of the donut shop who was present during the transaction, the police officer who made the initial complaint, and others who had information related to the allegation. I obtained written statements from the donut shop owner, the employee, the mayor, his wife, and his daughter-in-law. I also, to be thorough, conducted a telephone interview with the mayor's 7-year-old grandson. I did not interview his 2-year-old grandson because I thought that would come to no purpose. Other than that, I interviewed everyone. At the conclusion of my investigation, I determined that not only did the mayor not commit any sort of unethical conduct, he and his family were actually trying to welcome a new business to the village and did a good deed for its owner. What happened is this: on Saturday in July, no one can really recall the exact date, the mayor, his wife, and their 2 grandsons, ages 2 and 7, went to a local donut shop during one of its grand opening weekends. They entered the shop not long before its closing time. The mayor spoke with the owner and her employee, welcomed them to the village, discussed an issue with the sidewalk in front of the shop, while his wife purchased donuts for herself and her 2 grandsons. Mrs. Ellington attempted to purchase the donuts with her debit card, but was told that the card reader system was not yet up and running. So she scurried around to find cash, and she used the large amount of change she had in her purse in a bag to buy all 3 donuts. Mrs. Ellington, the owner then of the shop asked the mayor and Mrs. Ellington if they wouldn't mind taking the unsold donuts to Grace and Mercy Church, the women's shelter, for her, adding that she tried to donate her extra donuts to charities within the village. She apparently does this on a regular basis, and very proud of that fact, as well she should be. The Ellingtons agreed to take the donuts to the women's shelter for her. Around that time, an Amelia Village police officer entered the donut shop to conduct a business check. He was greeted by the mayor's 7-year-old grandson who, according to the officer, asked him if he was there to get free donuts. And the 7-year-old denies saying anything about free donuts, but Stacy did ask the officer, who was known to him, whether he was there to get donuts. The mayor and his wife then asked the officer if he knew the address of the women's shelter, and the officer provided that address. At that point, the Ellingtons left the shop with 4 large boxes of donuts to deliver to the women's shelter. They had difficulty locating the shelter, and they called the officer again to check the address. He gave them the address. They then went to the charity, to the women's shelter. No one was there. The mayor's wife and 2 grandsons then spent considerable time driving to other charities, including Grace and Mercy and the Claremont Counseling Center, to find someone to whom they could donate the donuts. No one was available at either location. As the mayor had to leave for work shortly, the Ellingtons returned home. Mrs. Ellington then tried to call other charities to see if she could find a place for the donuts. She called the Amelia Seniors, the Boys and Girls Club, and even Murray Funeral Home, who had no services that evening and could not accept the donuts. Finally, Mrs. Ellington, in an effort to get rid of the donuts, contacted her daughter-in-law, who was the manager of Advanced Auto Parts in Bethel. She knew that the store was having its Customer Appreciation Week that following week, and they provided free food to customers and collected donations for the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation. Her daughter-in-law agreed to take the donuts for that purpose, and all 4 boxes of donuts were placed on the counter of the store with a sign clearly indicating they'd been donated by the donut shop. On these facts, it's clear that the mayor's conduct was completely appropriate, and the allegation of misconduct is unfounded and without factual basis. This was much to do about nothing, but given that there was an argument that the mayor had violated your own policy made in public, I thought it was important to say what happened in public. It's clear there was nothing here. The donut shop owner, when I talked to her, she was completely fine with where the donuts had ended up. She actually even said she was very sorry that they had to go to all that trouble when all she wanted to do was ask them to take it to the women's shelter. So, yeah, so it was, so that should put an end to what I have started to refer to as Donut Gate. So with any luck, that will close the chapter on that. As far as the other issue, that's a personnel matter, which will be looked into at whatever level the future solicitor chooses to do so. But I would imagine that as far as that goes, the village would adhere to its prior policy that personnel matters aren't brought before the public other than through records requests if people choose. So that is my conclusion on the report.
Laura, how much did that cost us in your time?
I have no idea. Actually, I can locate that for you. I talked to everyone. I did phone calls to the extent that I could. There was some delay due to the officer not being available, so in time it took longer than in actual work time. But it took more than I would like for something. But if it were true that the mayor were running around taking large quantity of donuts or anything, it would be a problem. But it appears that this stemmed from only the mayor being seen, not even the mayor, he didn't even have a donut. His grandson being seen with 1 donut. So it is unfortunate, but it is resolved. So.
Thank you. Do you have anything else, Laura?
No, that's all I have.
Okay, to continue on with my report, because this may be Ms. Abrams' last business before Village Council as solicitor, I've rearranged tonight's agenda. Legislation drafted by Ms. Abrams will be heard at this time so that if council has any questions that can be answered, they can be answered immediately. That being said, first piece of legislation is ordinance number O-2011-50, an ordinance revising the personnel policy manual and establishing methodology to determine seniority for village employees. This will serve as a first reading. Second piece of legislation, O-2011-51, an ordinance establishing dates of hire and seniority for Amelia Village employees. Let me read it again. An ordinance establishing dates of hire and seniority for Amelia Village employees. This time I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules for 3 readings on 3 dates.
I'll make the motion to suspend.
It's on 51.
It's on 51.
Yeah, we don't have that as an emergency, Mayor.
Oh, we don't?
It's just
No.
Okay.
3 readings.
Oh, it does say it's a first. I apologize for the oversight. So let that serve as first reading on orders number O-2011-51.
Before we move on those, does anyone have any questions on those? I think they're fairly self-explanatory, but
Yeah, there's one, how much one it is, 50 maybe? That, it's got a lot of writing, but don't really understand what it all says.
on 50? The main point of this is that there's not been any set standard as to how people who start in the village employed, either as an auxiliary or a seasonal or a part-time employee.
That's why I thought it was leaning in that direction, yeah.
Yeah, and half of them seem to be given credit for their prior service and others were not, and it just seems to be a function of who was on council or who was the administrator or who was the mayor at the time. And looking back on this issue, it doesn't make, certainly is not fair to do it that way. So what I talked to the employees about is, as we went through looking at leave issues, that we would resolve that. And as many people did get credit, what we did was just take the default position that everyone would get credit. Really, with the way you use your part-time police officers, as almost full-time, they're not getting the same number of hours, but they certainly have the same responsibilities. It doesn't seem fair that they don't get that credit. So that was the point of that. There was also an issue on 51, that we have all kinds of different dates for when people started.
Oh, yeah.
So that affects their pay, their vacation and other accruals. So what we said is we'll just, while we're looking at this and we have some dates, we'll clear it up and it'll be established in an ordinance, so there won't be any confusion.
Thank you.
There's the point.
No adjustment should be made until the final adoption, though, as far as leave
Correct.
is.
And so that was, will serve as a first reading on O-2011-51. I'm going to skip past 53 for right now. And, oh, no, wait a minute. I'm going to go to 53, I'm sorry.
You're skipping number 0 to 1152.
Yes, I know, I want to do that last on purpose.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. This next ordinance is drafted as an emergency. Ordinance number O-2011-53. An ordinance by the Council of Amelia Village, Ohio, amending the annual appropriations of village funds for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2011 for Amelia Village and declaring an emergency. At this time, I entertain a motion from council to suspend the rules for 3 readings on 3 dates.
Also move.
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell,
Yay.
Mr. Pollock,
Yay.
Ms. Gerber,
Yay.
Mr. Hart,
Yay.
Mr. Rosser,
Yeah.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes.
This time, I entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number O-2011-53.
I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Second.
Discussion or questions?
Like a chessboard.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell,
Yay.
Mr. Pollock,
Yay.
Ms. Gerber,
Yay.
Mr. Hart,
Yay.
Mr. Rosser,
Yeah.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
Ordinance number O-2011-53 is adopted. Before we read the final ordinance prepared for this evening, I'd like to state that incoming Mayor Todd Hart and myself have completed the interviews for the solicitor's position. As council was made aware last week by way of email, I have asked Solicitor Laura Abrams to draft legislation appointing Julia Carney of the firm Manley Burke. Ms. Carney and the firm of Manley Burke also serve in the role as solicitor in the villages of Bethel, Woodlawn, Evendale, Laughlin, and Moscow. Additionally, Manley Burke has consulted on issues with the city of Norwood, Deer Park, Amberley, Silverton, Wyoming, and Lincoln Heights, etc. While Mrs. Carney will serve as a village solicitor, Amelia Village will have at its disposal the resources of a 10-person law firm. Ms. Carney is here in the audience this evening, so at this time I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Ms. Carney of Manley Burke, and I'll offer her the opportunity to introduce herself and also provide counsel with an opportunity to ask any questions prior to her appointment as a solicitor. Julia?
Hi, Julia Carney. A little bit of background. I started in public service as a zoning administrator, so I have a background in zoning and planning. I have a bachelor's degree in urban planning. Did that for about 4 years and decided why not go to law school. So I went to Chase at night and got my law degree when I was working as a city planner for the city of Cincinnati. After I graduated from law school and passed the bar, I went ahead and worked in the solicitor's office for the city of Cincinnati for about 5.5 years. I did real estate development work for them as well as planning and zoning law. I left the city about 2 years ago. Manley Burke offered me a position, and I thought it was a good change for me to go out in the private sector, but I still get to do a lot of public sector law, which is my background. I'm happy to meet you all and be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
How do you want to be addressed? Miss? By first name, last name, any name, bad name?
Any name, hey you. Ms. Carney's fine.
Okay, just want to get it straightened out.
I have a question.
Sure.
I know it was kind of told to us that, you know, we have many lawyers in different specialties that are at our disposal. My question is the retainer fee or the per hour fee, if, let's for say, we were told that we'd have a paralegal or something like that, if, let's say something arises and the paralegal is given that information, and then, which that person doesn't find out, then has to go to a lawyer. Are we gonna be billed both ways on that? The time for both the paralegal and then?
Typically you would if they're gathering data that then, if they're researching, say they're researching case law, they would do a memo to me that would summarize it so I don't have to spend the time reading all the cases. So yes, you would get billed for the amount of time that the paralegal spent on it, and then my review, and then any further work I would need to do on it.
And do we know what that is?
Yes.
Okay.
The paralegal rate is at $60 an hour. The the planner position is
Is $100.
$100 an hour, and for the attorney, $150 an hour.
And we would use our paralegals to gather documents and review them and things like that to help keep costs down for you.
What's the middle one? What was that one?
We have a city planner.
City
Plan,
planner.
come in and plan.
Sure.
What was our previous contract fee?
It was a retainer, but it was based on a $110 an hour rate. Once it surpassed the retainer hours, it was $145. Is that correct, Laura?
Yes.
$145 once the retainer was exceeded.
Do we have a retainer or so many hours, or it'll just be hourly?
Yes.
When we did interviews, we got a range from $100 to $180, depending on what firm we looked at, so they kind of bounce back and forth.
They all offer the paralegals?
No.
Do you think that ordinances would be prepared by paralegals mostly, or?
Probably by myself, and actually since we've done so many municipalities, we have a lot of ordinances already in the system that we can use as a model, and we just have to change a few things. So ordinances usually don't take a lot of time unless it's for something new. Like when electric and gas aggregation first came out, it took some time to develop those, but your standard ordinances like a zone change or adopting, a contract or something are gonna be pretty easy to just
Any other questions?
I guess I got one last one. Would you be, I know this is for a year, would you be opposed if we wanted to extend this out a little bit longer than a year, or how would we do that? I hate having this come up in November. I think it would be much better if it was in February or March.
That's up to council. I believe the revised code allows up to 2 years, is that right?
It does.
So if you wanted to make it, to January, February, if you think that's more appropriate, so you're not dealing with it right before an election, that would be fine.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought.
Especially this year.
Any other questions for Ms. Carney? At this time, I'll ask for council support in the appointment. Julia B. Carney as village solicitor.
You want a motion for that?
Yes.
Okay, with pleasure, I'll make a motion that we hire Ms. Carter as our village solicitor for time on.
I'll second that motion. Chuck, did you want to take that contract till February?
I'd almost like to see it go March 1st so that we're not dumping it right away into new council. I just think it'd be nice to have I think that's kind of the time, but I'm okay with February. I think March would be ideal, that way they can, this next year, we're gonna have 3 new members. Not the year after that, it's not gonna matter. Well, I should. Let me try that again. Any given year, we can have 3 or 4 new members. I guess every other year we'll have 3 or 4 new members, is what I'm trying to say. And it seems like, we couldn't. There's gonna be a lot of change in the first year. It'd be nice to give them a little bit of a window to interview and stuff if they don't like who they have currently, or if they get raised for whatever reason. I just really think that the more time we can give them there at the beginning. 90 days seems like a pretty good time. That's why I'm thinking March 1st.
Sounds good to me.
What do you think, Renee?
It's really not a great big monumental thing, it's just loosens things up just a little bit, I think.
Well, the only question I think that I would have doing something like that yearly would be fee-wise. If we lock something in, is that something that we would be looking at every time if we did it yearly? Are we looking at an increase every time we would renegotiate, or, it would come
I would
up?
say not typically. Our rates have been the same at our firm for about the last 6 years, but that doesn't mean that they won't increase sometime in the future. I can't guarantee that, but no, it's not typical that they go up every year.
And typically, do you do it yearly, or do you have,
We
like
usually
some of the
do
other
it
places?
yes, generally it's an annual contract.
Butterfly.
We have a first and a second, but the motions were not made with the amendments in mind, if you want to amend the motion.
I have a question here.
Yes, sir.
There's the ordinance that also pertains to this. Is this what you're discussing now a separate matter from the ordinance?
I thought we were just gonna appoint her, and then we've got to approve the contract. That's why I hadn't brought it up yet. I don't know.
I just wanted to make sure that we don't
Do we
drop
do it as
something
one, or
we
do we have to
should.
probably do it as 2 separate?
Well, if you want to amend the ordinance, you need to amend the ordinance. Which you can do. But you gotta do the emergency motion and amend it to the date you want.
So
The date
this-
is in here.
I guess my question was, this does both things. This
Correct.
appoints her solicitor and signs the contract.
Yes. The
Okay.
ordinance basically is council's approval of the mayor's appointment
Okay,
and states the terms.
okay.
So I think.
I guess it's
First
fair to
thing
say
is-
that we're looking at, looking for a motion on ordinance number O-2011-52. And
Well, I'll do a motion to make the amendment to March 1st
And I'll second it.
of 2012. Right.
just want to reiterate that this is
Would be
being
12 or 13.
2013.
13.
Let me read the ordinance. Ordinance number O-2011-52, an ordinance appointing Julia B. Carney to the position of village solicitor and declaring an emergency. This time I entertain a motion from council to suspend the rules for 3 readings on 3 dates.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell,
Yay.
Mr. Pollock,
Yay.
Ms. Gerber,
Yay.
Mr. Hart,
Yay.
Mr. Rosser,
Nay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
5 to 1, passes.
Okay, thank you. Welcome
Well,
aboard.
I think we
What?
gotta
That was
pass it.
gotta
the
pass it.
suspending the rules, Your Honor.
Oh.
Now we have to
We had to
adopt it.
have a,
Now you have to
It's adopted as amended.
adopt it as amended, which is to extend the
oh, that was
contract
just
till
suspending the rules. Thank you.
March 1st,
All right,
2013.
thank you. All right, so the rules have been suspended. Ordinance number O-2011-52. At this time, I entertain a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell,
Yay.
Mr. Pollock,
Yay.
Ms. Gerber,
Yay.
Mr. Hart,
Yay.
Mr. Rosser,
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Thank you. This time, all right,
At this time, I'm relieved since I'm just the interim, so thank
Did
you
you
all.
bring any-
I've enjoyed serving
Did you
with
bring
you.
any goodies?
I didn't. I'm going to go enjoy the evening for once. I have my Monday night free. Here, so you don't
Monday
get
night
credited
football.
with my issues. Welcome aboard, Julia. You'll do a good
Thank
job.
you.
You've made a good
Thank
choice.
Thank you,
everyone.
Laura.
Have a good
Thank
time. Bye, Julie.
Bye.
are we ready? Ready to move on? Are you settled in?
For now.
She said you can't do more than that.
All right. Next item on the agenda this evening is the police chief's report.
So left.
You just left? All right. We'll come back to him. Actually, this is,
Yeah, we're doing.
It's typically
the-
not.
Yeah.
It's not on.
It's kind of weird.
it's on. You have a report prepared this evening?
Yes, sir,
All
I
right.
got the comment, got the detail. Under our noticeable events and that, another variety of normal police activity. The only thing I went out of the normal for Amelia is one of the fights we got involved with, had some slicing with a knife. We made an arrest on that. Unfortunately, today, the victim failed to show up and the judge dismissed our charges. So I'm probably going to go through the same thing again. We did participate in a national take-back initiative where we collected old pharmaceuticals and such. Amelia picked up about 14 pounds, 1 ounces of old drugs, including some liquid morphine, which I haven't seen, geez, for years. So we got that turned into the DEA, so we're in great shape there. The DEA region that we participated in, I think they brought in about a total of 3,000 some odd pounds of drugs. Busy night for Halloween. 5 of the officers were out, 4 cars, and 1 bicycle officer. All in all, we had a pretty good night. Had 1 incident reported, and we just got word back from the prosecutor's office today that it didn't reach the level of a criminal offense. It was more like Halloween pranks, and if the people wanted to file civil suits, they could do that, but there'd be no criminal action just on the police part. We got the annual pistol and shotgun qualifications done. All we need to do now is a patrol rifle. We're just waiting for an instructor to become available so he can actually school train the officers on that. Cars are all PM, they're up to speed. Look like they're going to get us through the winter real good shape. I did meet with the Claremont County Chiefs, the Amelia Business Association, and the Amelia Christmas Parade Committee. Looks like we're going to have a fine parade this year. We got a lot of the little issues all worked out, I think. We're going to continue to meet and keep our fingers crossed for relatively warm and no snow Sunday in December, hopefully. Also met with a fellow from the Attorney General's office about a new records management system, which looks really, really positive on our part. And then again, down at the bottom, a comparison of the October 2010 statistical numbers and the October 2011 statistical numbers as a short comparison.
Chief, on the
Sir.
new reporting system, we're not taking any action on that at this time, correct?
No, sir. This is just an informative thing to kind of throw it into the pot, see how Linda feels, see how it would work with our current system and such like that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any questions or comments for Chief Wallace? Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
There's no public works report. That'll be at the next meeting. Next item on the agenda after that is the approval of the outstanding bills. We have no outstanding bills? Nothing for approval tonight, Kevin?
We have 11 pages of charges and bills from the accounting system.
You're asking for...
Sorry I didn't get it to you before the meeting. Most of it is payroll. There are some bills, General Electric for the lease payment, Sprint telephone service, Home Depot for the charge account with them. I believe there's some repairs to some of the vehicles included in that. But probably 80–90% of it deals with payroll. I ran the report through today, even though I haven't paid anything intentionally since the 28th or 9th, just to try to get the checks to clear and everything. And the amending the appropriations kept me from paying some of them until that got taken care of.
Any motion or input from council regarding the
I'll
bills?
make a motion to go ahead and pay the bills.
Second?
I'll second.
Discussion or questions?
I think, can we take 5 minutes to go ahead and run through these on our own since we were just given them?
Sure.
Okay.
Want to move to a recess?
All right.
Take a minute?
Just take a minute, it's fine.
Okay. No. Maybe just an overload. Okay.
So I don't want to sign it, for certain, you did.
Yeah. Is that an envelope there?
Yeah. Other ones.
I haven't seen it yet. Does anyone have any comments or questions regarding the bills? I'm entertain a motion from council at any time.
There's one on the floor
We already
currently.
Is there?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Hart
We
moved,
had a
Ms.
first and
Gerber
second.
seconded.
Yeah, okay. Any discussion or questions? Move to a roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Pollock.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Mr. Hart.
Yay.
Mr. Rosser.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
No.
Motion passes 5-1.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda this evening is public input. This time we'd invite anyone in the audience this evening, if you care to address council, please stand and introduce yourself and state your business. All right, with no public input this morning, or this evening? Been a long day.
The meeting isn't that long.
I've been here when it did go in. With no public input, we'll move to council input.
Yeah, I'd like to bring something up. On the tentative Christmas detour parade, I think if we took 131, we'd wind up in Milford.
Yeah, it's typo.
Is that going to be picked up before the signs hit the road?
It's already picked up.
Okay. That's it.
Do we need to decide on the date, or was that done?
It's been determined. It'll be on Sunday.
All right.
I think it's the 11th, isn't it?
Sounds good.
It's on, yeah, the Sunday,
The
Yeah.
11th. Let's see.
is it the 11th, Sunday 11th?
2 p.m. Of course, that's when it actually goes off, but it'll probably be tie up traffic from like till noon or something. 1.
Usually an hour
10?
before.
You
So
said 10?
1 o'clock. They'll
Oh.
probably shut the road down about 1. July.
Yeah, but
They
starts
usually
that
do an
night.
hour before.
Okay. So people know come 1 o'clock, don't come that way.
As
So
we,
take 131.
Yeah, yeah, I think 131 go to Frisch's.
So it's actually at 2.
Yes.
The parade is at 2, but the roads close at 1.
Probably.
Do
I
we?
don't think you can't even get 131 off of 125, can you?
Not hardly.
I don't think you can. It's 132.
Little snaking around.
Yet another one of my many mistakes.
Join the crowd.
Any other public input?
Council?
Council input, rather, I'm sorry.
Has the finance committee met lately?
We're supposed to have a meeting tomorrow night, 7 o'clock.
Is it
7 o'clock.
Is it a scheduled meeting?
We didn't make it, they're not gonna make it?
I work the election board. My one and only obligation.
What time are you getting out of there? I was gonna talk to you about that after the meeting, I heard you say that.
Yeah.
Doesn't it have to be posted? Does not the finance committee meeting need to be posted, so?
There's,
Is it a standing?
did the time change?
It's been, we moved it, I've sent out emails, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, it's been set for a while, at 7 o'clock.
When was the
I
last?
could probably, if we don't have any difficulties, I could probably make it by 8. Which is better than nothing, of course.
So then do we need to cancel it and move it?
Well, depending how late you can stay.
What's our quorum? So we just need 2 of us there?
We can start.
You can catch up late? I'm good
If
with
I could
that.
make it by 8, that would,
Yeah.
I'd get there in time to crank the tail.
Okay.
When was the last time y'all met?
I don't know, been a while, been an hard time
Is
getting
there
a
a
quorum
reason
here.
for that?
Yeah, we haven't been able to get a quorum here.
Oh.
I've been here at every meeting, it's just been hard to get everybody else here.
Well,
Nobody else shows up.
like I said, my only obligation of the year.
So nobody else shows up to the finance committee meetings? I don't understand.
It's the same with the planning commission, I mean, we've had a lot.
I'm not asking about the planning commission, I'm asking about the finance meeting, the commission, finance meeting.
I guess they don't show, they don't show. That's something we'll look at the new year and
Yeah.
put new people on it, and hopefully they'll show.
Any other discussion? Council input?
Have we looked into what we're gonna do about zoning for next year?
We had
I just
Put
see
that-
it
yeah.
getting brought up.
actually, we already interviewed for a zoning person, if you remember. We put it in the minutes, and the mayor referred it to the new incoming mayor and new council, so it's in the minutes to do that. So that's exactly what we're gonna do.
Do we have the funds for that?
We did have the funds for it, last time I talked to Kevin.
We're gonna make him
Currently?
self-sufficient,
Huh?
make him self-sufficient for her.
Yeah.
Based on the estimated resources from the county and my quick estimate, basically using the last 2 months of 2010 for revenues, we still have a small but definite cushion between how much is appropriated and what the law will allow us to appropriate. Actual cash revenues, they should be okay based on the estimates by the budget commission. If the person who, or persons who's retained on advice of council is fairly aggressive with the zoning enforcement, then obviously there'll be additional revenues. And it'd be at council's discretion, Mr. Carney will disagree with whether or not to designate those revenues strictly for zoning support or put them in the pot and let them fall where they may.
You said based on the approval of the budget commission. Is that our finance committee?
No, that's the Claremont County Budget
That's right.
Commission, yeah.
Okay.
County
I just wanted to
auditor,
make sure.
county prosecutor, and county treasurer. The village can't appropriate any money unless that particular commission approves the resources.
So we look like we're gonna have some. Now, based on current figures that we projected, next year at some point that we could, our general fund could be starving for funds. Is that still a possibility?
It is a possibility depending on the outcome of any pending litigation, the papers that the mayor and I signed tonight on that agreement, what impact that'll have on the fund balance as far as cash balances. And then, right now, just in my head, I'm looking at a 10% increase in health insurance costs. That'll hit, the current policy expires in February. There's a chance that we may get a decrease. I've also contacted Duke Energy about their retail division. I've learned that several villages have gone through the retail division and have had fairly substantial discounts as opposed to the, their existing contracts. And we're running about $4,000 a month just for streetlights. So even 10% is a nice little extra.
I'm just looking at the, if we get a zoning person, and we don't even have a number, do we have a number that what it's gonna cost to pay this individual? for the
We
services?
actually did an ordinance with a salary and everything, did we not? I don't have it with me, but we got
We didn't-
one. I can't remember what per hour.
We didn't pass an ordinance, we placed an
No.
ad.
Right.
Yeah, we placed an
And
ad,
then initially, I think we should, we
How much
approved.
money was, do you remember?
$10 an hour.
$10 an
And I
hour.
was going to say that the road crew is at $10, one person's at 12. Police full-time are at $16.38. So that gives you a range of, is it going to be a full-time, part-time position? If it's part-time, you're probably going to be looking more strongly towards a $10 to $12 per hour rate than if the person were full-time, in which case you might look at $15, $18 an hour, which will bracket the police and, the road supervisor.
Okay. Now, I know, for the year I was on finance committee, we could never come up with funding to afford that position. My concern is if we start a position and we're not able to, commit to it for long term, because this is something that's need to be addressed on a daily basis.
It's something, in order for me to make any sort of projections, I would have to know at the minimum whatever rate of pay, be it hourly or annually, or more likely hourly. On top of that, if it's a part-time position, limited to 24 hours of pay, or a week rather, we wouldn't have to worry about any health or dental insurance for the person.
Mm-hmm.
We would still have to worry about the 14% public employees retirement system contribution the village would make. And then the fractional percentage for unemployment and workers' comp. So, $10 an hour would translate out to $12.50 to $13 an hour actual.
Mm-hmm.
And if you let them, as I say, 24 hours of pay or a week, then we can run those numbers out and see what we need for the year.
Okay. I know there was suggestion before about next year trimming the council's pay rate back to the old wages. I know there was 3 council members that was for that. I was wondering if they were still for that. I'm trying to help you afford, budget this.
The savings, $100 a month decrease would be $1,200 a year per council member, $7,200 roughly for all 6 members.
But you can only,
Plus mayor,
you can
so-
only do that on incoming.
Incoming.
If somebody's
That's all they're gonna
That's all I'm
already,
looking
Yeah,
It's
it's
the
going to be the
incoming.
3 of them, and
it could only be on incoming council people. Somebody that's already sitting, you can't reduce their.
No, we
can't-
already had this
One or the
discussion.
other.
Yeah, that we could not.
We know that
We
we
could,
we
but-
could, and that's what the motions were for, to reduce council's pay immediately. So
Tim,
we could actually, my suggestion when I made that was to afford a zoning officer. Back then was one of the suggestions, one of the times I brought that up.
when we were looking a year ago, we were looking in like the $15,000 to $18,000 range.
Mm-hmm.
I think now we're looking in about the $5,000 range for somebody very part-time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we were talking
So,
one day a
and
week
that's
or
why we
something.
brought up, hey, council, take the cut to $100 per meeting or
Right.
per month,
Right.
and then that would pretty much cover your zoning person.
Julia, can you clarify, or can you speak off the top of your head of if an elected person's salary can be
Off the top of
manipulated?
my head, no. I remember reading something recently, but I'd rather go back and look at it before I give you an answer.
Well, like I said, there was opinion of our former solicitor that we could.
Okay, would you just
I
research
will.
that and be
I
prepared?
can let you know tomorrow.
Any other business
No.
before council?
Just looking at what revenue can generate.
the only other thing, and it just, the one project that's been discussed right on the village limits, none of that would hit until 13 at the earliest. So that's not something you can really, look at. And unless there's a mass hypnosis in Columbus, I don't see any increases in revenues to the village at the state level or changes in the law. The options for council for increased revenue really, no matter how you look at it, not the most palatable things to put on your plate.
Right. So what you're saying, that we're not gonna see any additional revenues that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, and then we were projected at some point next year, the latter part of next year, we could see possibly being in the red in the general fund. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
The
This is
possibilities are thinning, but still,
There.
we could get lucky and the county treasurer could end up collecting beaucoup delinquencies next year.
Right.
Be they through treasurer's auction, straights, property sales, what have you. The one animal that still sits out there that makes me nervous, and I've contacted the treasurer and auditor a couple times on it, is that estate tax refund. That's $40-some thousand that'll have to be taken out of the 2 settlements. The numbers I've worked with, I've made the assumption that that money's gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's that estate tax that we owe back. Is that what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly there's an $8,000 estate that came through, but I don't know what they're doing with that, whether they're laying it against that 40 or if they're gonna distribute it. They should have distributed it in August, but I haven't heard anything, so.
But we're looking at not to get burned again on that by putting that aside
Right.
until the
That's true.
limitations are
Yeah,
over
right.
before we use that money. Right?
Didn't we pass an ordinance on that or something, or did that ever get, we never?
It was
got back on
discussed, but I
that?
don't think it was ever actually, whatever the fancy word is.
Yeah, could we get, that's something for you to add to your list there. We got burned on somehow we got a new state tax and it got taken back from us. And we were looking at, writing an ordinance to make us hold that for 2 years or something. I can't remember how far back can they go? Was it 2 years or 5 years or?
I'll check.
Right now, and again, it depends, I have seen estates, when I was with the Hamilton County Auditor, sit out there for 11 years before they got closed. Which we all thought was ridiculous, because the reason they're being held back is because the estate was claiming that the estate tax return was wrong, even though it was the estate that prepared and filed the return. There are others that they get cleared up within the 15 months allowed by the state law. So a minimum of 24 months, if you want to do that, would be my suggestion.
I can't remember the time frame, but we were just looking at it in a special fund and not being able to touch it till.
Kevin, the other thing is, where we stand on the police budget.
The one litigation, to my understanding, has been disposed of, which took away a huge boulder that's hanging over us. As it stands now, because of the change in shifts initiated by the chief, overtime is down to 4 hours a month for all officers, as opposed to quite often that much per officer per pay.
Okay.
The revenues were slightly higher than I anticipated through the last real estate settlement, and then there was a small personal property settlement that also helped that I had not anticipated.
Okay.
So it looks better for the carryover, but still I would not have too big a party until a year from now.
Okay. Now with the numbers where they're at with the police department now, we were projecting that it would be very, very tight to make payroll January, February. Until our appropriations come in late February, early March.
At the first council meeting in January, council can pass an ordinance asking for money to be advanced as paid or received by the treasurer. This year, the advances were anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 a throw. So just one advance would cover a police payroll for a whole month, maybe even 2 months.
Okay.
The downside to that is when the county auditor gets around to doing the actual settlement in March, let's say, there'll be just that much less at that time.
Mm-hmm. Because I've done a lot of research lately on all this, that's why I'm bringing it all up, and why we have all council members here. Now, the possibility, I'm going to make a motion here in a second, but back in several years ago, I don't have the date here in front of me, but we did, the mayor's position, was it like $5,000 a month? It was raised due to that mayor was doing mayor's court.
It was 5,000 annually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it 700 a month right now?
Oh, a year. If I said a month, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, annually, 5,000. The thing is, it was boosted up to that number based on what's mayor's court. So I'm looking at any avenue before I leave council at the end of next month to find out whatever I can to help ease the burden going into next year with the budget and the general fund.
Now, that was also raised up with an administrator in place.
Exactly, and we do not have an administrator.
No, it was
based on,
It was raised
Court.
up prior to the administrator coming on board.
Yeah, but I'm saying it was raised up with an administrator in the position as well.
No.
not at that point.
The raise happened for the mayor prior to the administrator, because the person that was the mayor became the administrator.
Right, but I'm saying you had an administrator for your first term, first year, however many months it was or whatever.
This is when Mark Mintz was mayor. This is how far we're going back.
Yeah, that never happened.
Right, it was raised,
And there was no administrator, because he took the administrator's position. He was mayor and then went into the administrator's position. So there was no administrator.
right,
at that
but I'm
point in
saying
time.
you had two people, you had the mayor and an administrator.
Only thing I'm saying,
So-
if there's some savings somewhere, we need to find it.
Yeah, the raise didn't happen prior to the administrator being here. The raise happened prior to the administrator being here.
Right, but I'm saying it was like a year or whatever, and you had two people kind of in that role for a while, as mayor and administrator, that's what you're saying.
Well, I'd like to make a motion tonight that we, incoming council members, go back to the old rate of pay. And the mayor go at 5,000 per year, not per month, per year. This will allow us to afford a zoning officer so our public can feel secure with their neighbors.
What's the mayor's thing annually now?
700 a month. Should be
86 a year, 84 a year.
8,400 a year, roughly.
Tim, I see where you're trying to go with this, but, you know, right now, we're sitting comfortable financial wise. We've got money for a zoning, he just said we have money for a zoning inspector, I mean.
We are not sitting comfortable, Todd. There is no.
A meteor can come out of the sky and hit us, but we're not in physical emergency, we're not even looking to go into any type of an emergency right now.
Okay, so I already know what your vote's gonna be.
So,
But my point
I'm
is.
just saying,
No,
we're doing fine. You can sit here and look at numbers all day long, and one number can say we look horrible, the next number says we look good. Right now,
At least there's some of us looking at the numbers. And I've been looking at them for a long time, and to
and
deaf
they have
ears, to deaf
definitely
ears.
went up and down and all
No, to
around.
deaf ears, I could not get any support with those numbers. I kept on, and I said, I need support from council. I sat right there in that seat, could not get any support.
What kind
That
of
is-
support are you looking for?
no, I
Do
was
the
looking
earnings
for-
tax.
uh,
You
hold
never
on.
made a motion for an earnings tax. All this time, everybody's talked about earnings, earnings, earnings. You've never made that motion.
I had mentioned that
You've
motion.
mentioned it, but you haven't made it. There's a
Okay.
huge difference between
There's-
mentioning and making a motion.
Okay, but why don't you make it right now?
Because I don't think we need an earnings tax,
Okay.
and I'm not for the earnings tax, so I'm not gonna make that motion. That's where I stand.
Wow. It's not
And if you think we need the money, make the motion for the earnings tax.
I'm not gonna get that support. I didn't get it before. I didn't get it from you. I didn't get it from anyone. The point is, them numbers don't lie.
They
The
don't
man
lie,
just
and
sat
right
there
now,
and
we're
said-
doing,
the
you
man
know,
just sat
we're
there and
like
said-
anybody else. We're on a budget, and we're right on course with our budget.
Some of this can be cleared up,
So-
guys. I have a note here for myself to ask the fiscal officer, either by, you may not be able to have this prepared for the Finance Committee meeting tomorrow, Kevin, but perhaps by the next meeting for certain. And that would be a projected year-end balance for 2011 in both the general and police department funds, as well as a projected year-end balance in both funds for 2012. How soon do you think you can have that information prepared?
I have a lot of the information already.
You prepared for finance tomorrow?
It's a good chance.
Then everybody's looking at the same information.
Right on the back of what Tim said, I remember Mr. Gilpin coming in here and telling us that we're also gonna have to ask for a new police levy in 2012.
That is still a distinct possibility. I mean, the money currently,
But we're okay.
yes, we are okay. We are okay to the point that barring any unforeseen circumstances, if everything stays the same for all of 2012, as has been projected by the Budget Commission, as has actually happened so far in 11, the police levy will remain solvent to the point that the council could seriously consider hiring one additional officer. Now, mind you, we do have, my understanding, there's still some pending litigation out there that could blow this all out of the water. That estate tax, it could blow us out of the water too. Something may change on that. Whenever the legislators are in session in Columbus, I get nervous. A stroke of the pen can wipe us out.
It's a big chance we take, don't we?
And every village out there takes the same chance we're taking right now. Everyone. There's nobody different than us.
How do we know that? How do we know that?
They're all in the same boat.
They're not all.
That's why all of them are
They're not all
annexing.
in the same boat.
That's why they're annexing more properties. That's why they're finding any means of finance they can right now.
I do know from a meeting I was at with the state auditor's office 2 weeks ago now, I think, how a couple of the villages that were there managed to exist is beyond me, because they have 80 people in the village. Yet they have a full council, fiscal officer, I don't know. It's a full village, but 80 people supporting it. And everyone that spoke at that meeting, their one consistent comment was, what are we going to do next year? And the state auditor's office said, well, we can give you advice, but that's it. And most of them responded, advice doesn't do us any good, we need money.
Exactly. So, no, that's fine. I had a motion out there, nobody second, that's fine. I just want it to be on record. That's all I want.
Kevin, you alluded to potential litigation that had been somewhat alleviated. It may not be the case.
Forget what I said.
Well, let's put it this way, it will be, one way or another.
One way or the other.
At the expense of the village, or, I mean,
For the taxpayers.
there you go.
Excuse me.
Any other input from council?
I've said enough.
Okay.
No.
Kevin, you're going to begin, what is your plan for beginning the planning of appropriations for 2012?
I was hoping to do tomorrow. And one of the things that I would like to, I'll put out to council now for them to think about. The new council members, they may think differently, but two things that would basically make my job easier, yet still afford council control. One, currently the appropriations go down to what's known as the object level. An example of object level would be salaries. Next level up is program, mayor's staff. And then there's the fund, general fund. I'd like to have the appropriations only go down to the program level. So you would appropriate general fund, mayor's staff, then I would allocate the money, okay, we need so much for salaries, so much for PRS, so much for health insurance. If something comes up during the course of the year, I could then move the money within those objects without council having to pass an ordinance and the expense of having that prepared, whether Ms. Carney prepares it or Ms. Wortman prepares it, there's still that expense. The second thing, which I know a lot of townships do, and some other villages do, is they basically set a floor, if you will, that any bill under a certain amount, or certain types of bills, don't need council approval. So anything paid for health insurance, contracts that we know are set rates every month, utilities, you could set those up as, go ahead and pay them, we know we have to pay them, we don't have any choice in the matter. As far as a ceiling, then anything under $500, or whatever the council felt was most comfortable. Again, it would save everyone time, we could get them paid more quickly. With that coupled to appropriating just to the object level, like the ordinance we passed tonight, I have several bills sitting there I haven't been able to touch because the money wasn't there. Had we the object level appropriation, I could have shifted the money around in at least two of the funds and wouldn't have had anything to worry about.
Just, in other words, it just provides you flexibility.
Yeah, just
within the fund.
flexibility. I could still provide the reports to council, saying, hey, here's what I paid. It's just something for council to think about.
Because last year this year we only appropriated 85%.
Yeah, which is a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
What is the dollar amount or the percentage that is lost in revenues in 2012 for from the local government fund? Is it a 50% for 2012, or is it?
It depends. You're going to love me for saying this. It depends on who you talk to out of the state budget office. The state budget office, and how they could say this with a straight face, was beyond anyone at this Ohio Municipal League meeting I was at. They claimed that the reduction in local government for this year was only 18% or something like that. Everyone else is sitting there looking at the, their own numbers or what they know, and says, no, it was 25%. I don't see how you get 18%. For next year, through July or June 30th, the levels will be 25% lower than they were for this year. For the remainder of the year, they will drop so that basically 50% less than what they were for this year.
And in 13, it's gone.
In 13, it's gone, as I believe the state tax has gone then too. We are currently, I don't want to give a number because I can't remember off the top of my head what's been generated in the local government so far this year, but I believe the Budget Commission only estimated like $72,000 for local government for next year. And I believe they estimated 105 or 110 for this year. But since the law changed, that estimate's gone out the window.
Yeah, because the projection was 107 to 110,000 we could lose.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Interestingly enough, if you remember the budgets and such was submitted, overall the general fund, because of the changes by the state legislature, will be losing a minimum of $8,000 to $10,000 in revenues this year alone. And what it'll be next year, I really don't know because I haven't, looked at the numbers that closely. I know it'll be a much larger decrease. Part of that has been offset slightly by some changes in the real estate, but not enough. The police fund is actually going to see a slight increase.
In revenue?
Yeah, but not much. It's going to be about the same as what the general fund's losing.
And license plate renewal helps us too.
And that, as I was talking with the mayor today, and I haven't done any research in it, maybe Ms. Carney can look into it. I know the village does have one supplemental motor vehicle license fee. I don't know for certain if there's another one still available to the village, so I believe the county has taken one as well.
We
We try to, we're maxed.
Okay, so,
Derek's right.
the roads are then, unless you get another gas station in town,
Yeah,
or someone buys a lot of cars and registers them in Amelia,
yeah,
that, those resources are locked.
yeah. Bill Gilpin looked into that and said we couldn't touch it. We looked at all avenues, guys.
Now I know.
We were thorough.
Any other input? One last thing I have is just to publicly welcome Ms. Carney. Thank you very much. I want to say that the candidates that were interviewed, Ms. Carney and her firm were, I think, pretty much heads above the rest. I think that moving into the future, the village is going to have the very best legal representation available. So I want to welcome you. Thank you very much for being here. Any other input before we move to adjourn? Last call for public. This time I entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:22 p.m.
I make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.